Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Lisa Hounds-Rodon, CEO and founder of Sublym Fragrances, and I'm excited to talk to you today about recent trends that I have been noticing this past few years. I'm just looking at my notes here, and the things that I want to talk to you today about the fragrance industry is taking a step back and looking at how much of the industry has evolved just in the past 2 decades alone. So when we're looking at perfume that came from the early 2000s, I mean, this was a lot of like celebrity perfumes, like Britney Spears was huge, Paris Hilton, Curious, Fantasy, all of that. And the creativity that stemmed from that, perfumes were very, I would say, creative in their approach and a lot less nuanced than the ones that we are finding now. And it's because of this trend of wanting to be more of a niche fragrance house. So we're seeing that niche fragrances are becoming extremely popular. And we have maybe a few celebrities that are on dock. For example, Ariana Grande is huge. She's probably our top girl right now. Has over 40 different fragrance releases to date. So yeah, I think it's really interesting to see like where that has been taking off. Like now it's much more about our own narratives, and that's what I really enjoy, and I love listening to people about what makes them feel good. I think a lot of what we're looking for in the fragrance industry today is individualism. I think a lot of our narratives are becoming more nuanced, and I think we're looking for ways to experiment more with fragrance. So, for example, milk notes are really huge within the feminine fragrances. I think I probably have a 7 out of 10 requests wanting some sort of laconic or like cocoa butter, vanilla obviously is huge. So I think it's really interesting to see like what people are requesting versus what was kind of the goal of a perfume back in like early 2000s. If you wanted to smell good, usually you would opt for like a musky kind of scent. Musk was huge. Musk was literally everywhere. You couldn't not get a fragrance without musk in it. It was like the best fixative. It offered the best longevity. And now, because of the technology and where we've gone, you can now make substances that are very similar to musk. They smell almost exactly the same, but are actually made from trees or plants. And so I think that's really cool. And I think now what we're looking for is quiet luxury. We're looking for things that are not mass produced. We're looking for a custom fragrance that is especially made for you, for people who are looking to make their mark and tell their story. And I think with the tools that we have and the technology and social media, these things, like, it's so easily accessible at an affordable price. So I think we're just scratching the surface. I think the fragrance industry still has the best days ahead of its time. Like, I think we're literally just scratching the surface. I think in terms of like what we can actually make as olfactory notes, I think is only going to get better. I think the fact that we have just in the last 5 years alone been able to, for example, use more CO2 processing. So CO2 processing is a way for a solvent extraction process where you get more of the greens in a certain chemical component, and it makes the fragrance smell way fresher versus your usual essential oil. So that's something that I personally reach for a lot as a perfumer. I love CO2s, vanilla CO2, coconut. I really like the freshness of it. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where it's going. I think in this economy as well, it goes safe to say that we're all looking for quality despite the price. I think purchasing a fragrance for $500 doesn't necessarily equate quality. So I think we're also getting way more savvy as consumers, and it's being able to pick up on those trends and being able to think swiftly on your feet and acting nimbly in that way, I think is going to lead to a lot of success to a lot of businesses. And I think it's also looking into the future a little bit and getting excited about what we're going to be able to create, you know? So, like 10 years ago, we would not have been able to create, you know, a laconic note. The fact that this is now a possibility for us, and like we're able to really stretch that experimentation and use basic molecular structures to replicate something that is amazing and unmade, is, I think, super like interesting and extraordinary. And this goes for sure without say. Our dupe culture is one to be applauded, I think. I love dupe culture. I love that people can get access to a high scent profile at almost a fraction of the cost. I mean, the cost of an extrait de parfum you can literally get for about $30 retail price, to go for about $600. So I mean, you look at that and then you say as a consumer, okay, what am I basing my decision off of? Am I, you know, in a position that I can afford a $500 fragrance or a $600 fragrance? You don't necessarily have to these days. And that's the beauty of it, is that you get access to smelling really amazing and still telling your story and still feeling good about yourself. You know, you're making financially savvy decisions, you're budgeting, you're being really careful with your finances, and of course you're taking care of yourself and your body. And I think that is already lending itself a huge proponent to the fragrance industry itself. Back in the day too, I think signature scents were really big. Not that they aren't big now. I think people are still looking for their signature. It's in search of that perfect scent that is going to make you feel a certain je ne sais quoi every day. But I have to say that I think the biggest trend right now and going into 2026 is going to be more of like mood scents. So like wearing a scent based on your mood or how you want to feel that day. So like, for example, I felt like I needed to be calm today. Like I woke up and I was like, you know, it's Monday and I know everyone is going to, you know, be all hustle and bustle, but I really just want like an hour to myself this morning and just like make my oatmeal, my meditation, do a little bit of yoga. And so like that's exactly what I did. And I put on a fragrance that helped me get to that. There's such a plethora of opportunity and there's a plethora of scent profiles on the market right now that it's a little challenging to just like adhere to one signature scent. There's a huge demand for niche fragrance, and I think the term niche gets kind of loosely associated to like being a very, you know, specific kind of smell, or being like, what a niche fragrance is basically a fragrance that belongs to a house, a sort of like a small house, right? So when we think of like big houses like Guerlain, Hermes, Dior, you know, these are all fragrances that stem from the fashion industry. And so you wouldn't really consider them niche because they offer so much more than that. But essentially what niche is a house that just does fragrance. Like that's they're experts in it. They expertly craft their fragrances. They have lots of nuance, and so they're able to get more involved with experimentation. And it's a really wonderful thing to see that niche has really just exploded within the last, I would say, 3 years, probably even before that. But I think like it's only going to get better and better. Like I think we're pretty much less likely to purchase, let's say, if I'm looking at the consumer of 2028, I think 9 out of 10 times they're probably going to choose a niche fragrance over a celebrity or a luxury house, just because they're is a storytelling element that gets a little bit lost in corporate cultures, right? So yeah, I think that we're definitely going to get more into niche fragrances within the next 3 years or so. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the term unisex. Okay, so this is actually really interesting to me. So the term unisex fragrances, I think, really started becoming a thing after COVID-19 hit. Like, it was so interesting to see. I think there's a lot less of like, let's say, man versus woman divide when it comes to fragrances, which is really cool. Like, I love that you can think of a fragrance outside of its, let's say, dichotomy of being leaning too masculine or too feminine. I think it's really interesting to see the two blend. Unisex fragrances are definitely going to become more popular. I do think that, yes, there's going to be a lot of like men and women still. There's still that duality at play. But I think niche houses in particular are going to brand themselves as unisex for sure. Okay, so the next note here that I would like to talk about is, so the scents that I think are going to be super trendy this upcoming year in 2026. So I am noticing that berries are really becoming popular again. I don't know how, I don't know where, but all of a sudden, like, berries and things like juniper berries and like black currant and other kind of like fruity notes like lemon or apple, cherry is huge. Like, it's just interesting because I think it's a trend. And I literally remember like so many fragrances back in early 2000s had those kinds of notes. And then they dropped off and it was like all vanilla, all sandalwood, you know, all of this like kind of heavier aromatic stuff. Lavender was huge, you know, back in 2024 with Burberry Goddess, of course. But now it's interesting to see the berries again. So I think berries are going to be huge in 2026. Another note that I think is going to be huge that I've been seeing a lot of recently is salt and like marine accords. I think salt is going to be the note to look out for in 2026, personally. I think salt just adds a layer of complexity that is really simple and yet clean, and it's very alluring, right? Like, when you wear salt, it's kind of very comforting and soothing, and like it offers this cleanliness and like this roundedness to a perfume that is otherwise like falls very short. Like, the thing about a gourmand fragrance for me is I really appreciate them, and I do enjoy when I can make a gourmand fragrance for my customers, but it's it falls a little flat sometimes for me. So the salt note is really nice because it gives you that kind of umami essence of a fragrance. And what I mean by umami is it's well balanced, right? Like, so whenever I make something, I always try to offset a one component that I add. So when I'm adding vanilla, I want to add something that kind of offsets that sweetness a little bit. And I think salt is like the perfect kind of counterpart to that. So yeah, so the other note that I know is going to be forever big is vanilla. I mean, vanilla is just not going anywhere. It's loved by both men and women. To my note earlier about being unisex, it's very easy to apply vanilla and like tonka bean notes. Those are universally loved. And so I think, yeah, vanilla is definitely going to stay in 2026. With regards to other trends in 2026, I think layering is for sure still sticking around. And I think the way that we are layering and thinking scents through in terms of our collection is going to expand. So like when we're thinking of, you know, let's say an alcohol-based fragrance, right? And you have a collection of Lattafa or Dossier or whatever you may have in your arsenal, Guerlain. I think combining these fragrances can be a little bit overly stimulating. And I say that lightly. I know that like creating a layered scent is perfect to exude your individuality and to kind of make your own signature scent. So I know that's really big with consumers, but I think there's a more tactful way to layer, is what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to say that layering purely with alcoholic based fragrances is going to create a little bit of astringent feel to your fragrance. And I think to keep it fresh, it's important to consider other formulations. And so that's where I think like perfume oil is going to get really big, honestly, because we're already so in tune with our body care routine. We put on our moisturizer, we put on that body lotion, the body cream, whatever it may be, body oil. And then we're going in, with this alcohol base. And what that does is it kind of redacts the hydration that your body needs in order to have that longevity and projection that you're looking for. And so I think it's really critical to insert a perfume oil in this case, and then layer your alcohol based over that. So like, for example, this is just, a blend that I made myself, of course, for Sublym. So like what I would do in this case is like, I would take my oil and I would place it right here on my wrist, and then I would go in with a nice alcohol based perfume, and I would just spray it lightly on my wrist. So that, I think, is way more strategic and effective when it comes to wanting that longevity. And so I think that's like for sure the way to go, like in 2026, if you're thinking about, how do I layer a scent? Like, I want a scent profile that's unique to me, but I also want it to last all day and I don't want to reapply. Definitely consider yourself getting a perfume oil. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and follow me on all the things.